Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about a video that was requested. I've made videos on this before, but I know some of you guys are new, and I'm making this particularly for the person who requested it, as well as all the people that gave it a thumbs up. We're going to talk about the stages of grief. The stages of an avoidant coming back to you after you stop talking to them. The particular commenter said something about like how an anxious person stops talking to them. And so this will have that as well, but this is for anybody who stops talking to an avoidant who they love, you love, whatever it is, right? That love connection, okay? And they usually go through a stage of grief, and it looks different, especially if somebody's anxious, preoccupied. So just keep that in mind. This is not how you grief, but this is how avoidants grieve, and the pattern is going to be different, but it doesn't mean they don't care about you, and I'm going to talk about that. So the first one is actually they tend to feel a lot of relief, and they feel back in control. Now, control issues are incredibly common with avoidants. If you guys are somebody who watches most of my videos, you know how often I talk about control issues with avoidants, and I think a lot of people in the attachment space don't realize how much that is how they behave, because I think a lot of people think an avoidant is somebody who just is like unsure about you or non-committal. That could be just anybody. It could be a personality disorder. It could be someone who doesn't like you. But the core of avoidant attachment, both dismissive and fearful, is some form of control issues. To be honest, so is anxious preoccupied, but it just looks different. And they often associate relationships with out of control. Fearful avoidants have this interesting relationship with this, though. They feel out of control when they're out of a relationship and when they're in a relationship. And so they when they're out of a relationship, they worry, is there something wrong with me? Why am I not in a relationship? And then when they're in a relationship, they also feel like you don't like me. Maybe you're asking for too much. I'm not ready for that. And so they always feel out of control. It's unfortunate. Fearful avoidance, the reason is because when they were a child, there were so many traumatic things going on. They never felt in control. And so both attachment styles have a deep need for control, and relationships make them feel they're out of control. But when the relationship is removed, even for fearful avoidance, temporarily, they feel like they have control. And they feel like, okay, finally, I know what's going on. You're not here. I don't have to worry about, for a fearful avoidant, that you're going to abandon me or you're going to suffocate me. For a dismissive avoidant, you're going to control me. You're going to suffocate me. You're going to trick me. And both of them, dismissive and fearful, have these thoughts. And they feel, okay, now I know that that's not going to happen. So I'm going to go about, do my own thing. And what ends up happening is they start realizing during this time, they believe that they're still the way they were before you. And that's the tricky part, because it doesn't matter who initiated the breakup. The fact that they feel, okay, I'm in control, I know who I am, especially dismissive avoidants, they're all about their identity, right? I'm me, this is the way I am, I don't need anybody. And so this is like proof. Okay, I proved myself, I don't need anybody, I am fine. Look at me being by myself, I'm in control, I'm free of all the, pressure that the relationship had. For fearful avoidance, I'm free of all the fears about being abandoned, about being tricked, I'm free, and whatever their versions are, it can sometimes overlap. They are free from that. However, they start realizing that they can pretend all they want, but their feelings do catch up. They start realizing, and this is going to go on to the next stage we'll talk about, we're still in the first stage, that the person they thought they were is not who they are anymore. No matter how much they want to pretend, you did influence them and they do love you. And so they're not the person they used to be. They can't be fully independent or without you because they love you. And so they start realizing their version of themselves is not the version they used to think. So they are having a little bit of an identity struggle, which is why this stage can last a little bit longer than other attachment styles, because they want to be in control, but now there's a new thing that's throwing a wrench in their idea. Is sure, they're in control because you're not here anymore, but now they're out of control with their identity. And so they're trying to wrestle that. They're not the identity they used to be. And so again, they're out of control. So the second stage is usually reflection, and they start noticing that they have been influenced by you. They might not be obvious about it, but your absence is obvious to them, and they may wonder if the relationship was their fault. They may wonder if their feeling of needing you is genuine. They may start thinking, wait, this is proof that I did like you. I wish I didn't mess up, because a lot of times avoidants are afraid they don't like you. And so feeling this makes them feel more sure of it. But that's another issue that they need to work on regardless, because as soon as you get close to them again, they're going to have those doubts again to some extent. Some of them, not all of them. But they start wondering what went wrong. However, the third stage is they actually realize they begin to miss you and they realize you matter. However, this is confusing because this again, is that clash with their identity. And now it's even more prominent because now they can't pretend anymore that identity is being questioned. And so that's why the fourth stage comes in. And this is where a lot of people get very confused. These feelings become very flooded. The loss of you, the pain, but the identity crisis that they're talking about. So they're dealing with a lot of things at once, and they are not good with dealing with a lot of feelings. So what do? They start numbing. They start going into numbing techniques, maybe some things that you haven't even seen in a while you thought they wouldn't do. Maybe they took an international trip to Sweden or somewhere. I don't know where they're going. And that's really out of character. Maybe they're partying a lot, and that's also really out of character. Maybe they are spending more time with family, also out of character. They're leaning into a lot of their unhealthy habits, which I'm not going to talk about on here, but you guys get the idea. We've talked about it a little bit on here. I just don't think it's worth going again and again about it. They're maladaptive strategies, okay? They are leaning into that. And it's really confusing for you because it makes you feel like, oh, they're enjoying themselves. They're having a good time. They're not. They're avoiding those feelings, okay? The next one is they keep tabs on you. They can look at your social media handle. They can ask friends about you. They can even... when you send them a text message, they might read it, but they might not say anything. Now, it's not because they don't like you. It's because they don't want to give in to their feeling of that loss of identity. It has nothing to do with you. But if they do give in, it's proof that their identity that they're so proud of is not real. Not anymore. And so they're trying to manage this, but keeping tabs on you gives them like a slight bit of like release, right? It's almost like when someone's anxious or even has OCD, which I'm not going to talk about too much because it's actually not the same thing at all. So don't start thinking that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying like some people reach out for like a little bit of reassurance, but it doesn't help. That's what's happening here, right? It gives them that relief about the feeling that they miss you if they talk about you. They might talk about you to their friends. They might, check your social media. It's only because they're trying to remove this feeling. It's not actually because they're planning on reaching out. They will end up reaching out. That's the last step. But this is not what's happening. They're not secretly planning, okay, I'm going to wait, this month, 30 days from now and reach out. That's not what's happening. They're just doing this to manage their own emotions, but it doesn't work. And so that's why the last step is usually they reach out. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but it does happen eventually, typically, okay? And so these are the stages of grief. And I'm going to go ahead and summarize and then we'll wrap it up, okay? The first one is that they tend to feel relief and feel in control. So they're actually pretty happy, and they genuinely are. They're happy that you're no longer in their life because now they get to be that identity they think they are. And it makes them feel good, but through this stage, they start realizing that identity doesn't fit anymore. So they start having this identity crisis simultaneously to missing you. The second stage is reflection. They start realizing these things are happening. They're having this identity crisis. They miss you. They wonder, is it their fault that you left or that they left you, whatever their version is. And then the third one is that they actually start to miss you and they accept it. However, they realize that that means that they're not the independent person that they are. And that's very painful for them because their parents taught them, you have to be independent. You have to not care about anybody. Otherwise, you're a failure. And so they are also feeling like they're a failure for missing you. And so that feeling is overwhelming. So now they start numbing. That's the next step. They start numbing. They start covering those feelings. And then that's not working. And so the fifth one is they try another strategy. I'm going to reach out a little bit. Or maybe they keep tabs on you. They watch your social media handle. They talk about you. But that's not working either. And that's why the last stage is they reach out. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.